The executive director of the advertising firm Saatchi & Saatchi has been put on leave after claiming that the debate about sexism in the workplace was all over. Kevin Roberts said he doesn't spend any time thinking about gender issues, despite the fact that just 11.5% of advertising agency directors are female. Well, he said women's ambition was not vertical, but rather an intrinsic circular ambition to be happy. So women say, we are not judging ourselves by those standards that you idiotic dinosaur-like men judge yourself by. I'm just not worried about it because they are very happy, very successful and doing great work. And he concluded that he couldn't talk about sexual discrimination because his company had never had that problem. Well, joining me now to discuss this, The Guardian's columnist Dawn Foster and Peter Lloyd, author of Stand By Your Manhood. Welcome to you both. If I can ask you first, Dawn, is Kevin Roberts correct in saying that the debate about sexism in the workplace is entirely over?
No, not at all. I mean, I genuinely think at this point, the fact that he's been made to leave so quickly shows that we're finally getting to a point where it is being taken seriously. I think it just shows a complete lack of responsibility to say that the reason why there aren't that many women in top spots is because they don't want it enough. It's simply because of structural sexism that starts, in schools, carries on for universities, and we see it in all aspects of society. I mean, the fact that we have Theresa May as only the second female Prime Minister shows that we still have a problem. Whereas somebody like Kevin Roberts, for instance, would point at her and say, look, there's one woman at the top. Clearly, she's the only woman who's ever wanted it, and there isn't a problem. But I think the fact that Saatchi & Saatchi have been so quick to push him out and make light of the fact that his comments are very, very unnecessary shows that we might actually be getting somewhere, and his sort of views are increasingly being seen as antiquated rather than the ones that he described as antiquated.
Peter, do you agree with the views of Kevin Roberts?
Surprisingly not, no. Well, actually, with Kevin Roberts, yes, I do. I don't agree with Dawn's comments. I think, what he was saying is true. Men and women are biologically different and they have different life choices. What he was actually saying in his comments were that the reason a lack of women at the top isn't a problem at Saatchi & Saatchi is because they have the opportunity to be there and they haven't taken it. These are choices that women should be free to make, and men should be free to observe them without fear of a witch hunt. It's as simple as that.
Do you think, though, that he can realistically speak for all the women at Saatchi & Saatchi and speak for them and voice their opinions that they're not wanting to aspire to more senior positions?
Well, he was just speaking in a general term. He was just having a relatively casual conversation with a journalist. And it's clearly been spun all out of control. It's almost been manipulated on Twitter into this very predictable furore, which is just ridiculous. It's predictably irrational. What he was saying reflects the majority of women's attitudes to work and family. They have a different approach to balance, to having children and having a career. It's something that men don't have. And he was just stating a fact and his experience. The fact that he has been suspended from his job is shameful. It's ridiculous.
I suppose it's quite a simplistic argument, the one that he put forward. I mean, he doesn't account for the fact that women have to think about childcare, but perhaps that has a bearing on where they aspire to be in their careers. He didn't really come across or mention that, did he, Dawn?
No, not remotely. And I think that, Kevin Roberts' argument and Peter's argument is very, very simplistic. I mean, a lot of women are extraordinarily bored of people like Kevin, people like Peter, telling us what we want constantly. A lot of women I know have worked in advertising, some at Saatchi & Saatchi, and they found it absolutely unbearable. They found it rife with sexism, rife with overt sexual discrimination, harassment, but also a kind of sexism intrinsic in the hiring and firing that happened. And also, the problem is at the moment in Britain, childcare is very expensive. Women biologically carry children, so often they find that it's almost impossible for them to go back to work afterwards. I've spoken to dozens of women who have had to take their employers to tribunal because they've been sacked while pregnant, etc. And these women want to go back to work. They want to be the breadwinner, and they want to work and provide for their children that way rather than be at home.
Well,
but actually, society isn't going to let them.
They can do that if they want to.
No, they can't, because they have been sacked from their jobs. Once you've been sacked from a job, you can't go back in. That's as simple as that. And statistics have borne this out. More women than ever have been let go because of pregnancy discrimination. Discrimination exists even if you don't want it to, Peter.
Well, that is a slightly separate issue. What we're talking about
is
there a secret glass ceiling? Is there a secret plan to keep women down? No, I hate to break it to you, it's not all about you. It's not all about women. People just want to get on with their jobs and have successful careers.
But Peter, how then do you account for the low numbers of women in these senior positions then?
Well, for exactly what Mr. Roberts said, life choices. There are plenty of professions where women dominate. Look at medicine, look at veterinary science. If women want careers and
if
to
you look at
dedicate
veterinary
themselves
science
to
and
that,
medicine,
they can.
actually, once they get to 40, women are forced out yet again. If you look at Jeremy
Forced
Hunt's,
out.
yes, if you look at Jeremy Hunt's, contract, one of the main reasons why people were angry with it was because it discriminated against women. Women are often forced out as soon as they have children because they can't afford childcare and because they're often sacked or dismissed.
Peter, you're shaking your head, but there are examples of women who really testify to this story of not being able to return to work and being treated differently because they've decided to start a family. Even women that have attended job interviews and been asked illegally whether they wanted to start a family.
Well, I think it's this kind of conversation is, and the rhetoric that we hear from feminists all the time, is so patronising to the plenty of women who have children and still have careers and go on to thrive. So to assume that all women are victims as soon as they have children is ridiculous.
I mean, Dawn, I will say that Kevin Roberts did actually say that at Saatchi & Saatchi, 65%, I believe he was quoted as saying, of the staff were women. So perhaps when he says that there isn't a problem in his particular field, he is being truthful.
If you actually look at Saatchi & Saatchi, this is very, very common across all fields, including journalism where I work, etc., including medicine, etc. You basically have a kind of pyramid. So there are lots of women at the bottom, lots of women in junior roles. A lot of women I know, started out in advertising. They get to 30, 35, and they suddenly find themselves squeezed out. And this is true of most professions. It's true of journalism, etc. So, I mean, you have to look at the boardroom structure. You have to look at every single part. And basically, as you find time and again, the higher up you get, the fewer women there are there. And women want to be there. Women want to do well. Women want to achieve. But time and again, we're pushed aside. Or we're discriminated against. And instead, what we get is Kevin Roberts, people like Peter, obnoxiously and patronisingly telling us time and again what we actually want, rather than letting us get on and do our jobs.
On the contrary, I think you're the one. I think you and your fellow feminists are the ones who are patronising women, telling them that if they don't strive and they don't make the career decisions
I haven't said that at all.
That feminists want them
to,
then there's something wrong with them. And so what you say instead is, oh, well, we can't really blame women for making the choices that we want them to, for not making the choices we want them to. So what we'll do is we'll blame men and this
simply aren't making any sense.
Mythical patriarchy.
You aren't making any sense whatsoever. All I have said is, for women who want to strive, they're often pushed aside. Indirect and direct sexual discrimination does exist. The government acknowledge that, women acknowledge that, but instead I have several men telling me that the things I see every day, the things other women see every day, simply don't exist, and that is patronising.
I'm not denying the fact that some sexism exists. Of course it does, but to say that it also exists against men, and to say that it's systematic and that every single woman at every stage of her career when she tries to thrive is held back by some man is ridiculous. It's divorced from reality.
Do you guys share any common ground, do you think? Is there a solution?
I think the government are doing some good work, but I think that actually one of the big problems is post-recession. Women have been hit very hard, especially women in like part-time jobs, etc., who are trying to balance work and family. And I think Jeremy Corbyn's idea about having like gender audits to look at who is paid what in companies is a very good way forward. But I also think bringing legal aid back, so women who are discriminated against can take their employers to court, would be a massive step forward. Gender
audits are a good idea, Peter, or not?
Well, I mean, I think we should just cut out the middleman or woman, and we should just force women into senior roles and force them to stay there, and they are never allowed to leave, and then everyone will be happy.
I'm not quite sure you meant that, but thank you both, Dawn and Peter, for taking part in that debate. Thank you.